Welcome to the Power Lunch Podcast, your midday dose of boldness, brilliance, and a little bit of badassery. I'm Amy Sousa, here with my powerhouse co-hosts, Tracie Munce and Lisa Carmichael, and we're coming in hot to shake things up. Each week, we dish out bite-sized, high-impact conversations on business, health, purpose, wealth, and the wild, beautiful chaos in between. Whether you're building your dream, rebooting your story, or just catching your breath, this is your space to get grounded, inspired, and reignited. This isn't just another podcast, it's your power move. Let's go.
Welcome back to the Power Lunch Podcast. I'm here with Lisa and Amy, my two amazing co-hosts, and I'm here with Carolyn Oberfeld, who is one of my favorite humans. I met you a few years ago at the restaurant. You and Mike for a while, your husband for a while, was the number one customer. He would come in and say, "Am I still number one?" But you have always been the number one in my heart. Like, we have traveled together.
Yeah.
I went to football matches, rainy football match in Paris. Um, you've been a part of our power luncheon last year, and you are going to be part of it again this year,
Yeah.
2026. If you're listening to it, it's April 28th. Am I right, Lisa? April 28th.
April 28th.
And you're
That's
going to be
fair.
part of it again. I'm so excited. You have been in the financial industry for 39 years. First off, that's weird that you started when you were 2. I thought that was child labor, something. What? So 39 years, something had to have called you, maybe, or just a job. But what's kept you going, and where are you going now? Are you, like 39 years? Are you about to retire? What's going on? So tell me a little bit about you.
All right. Great questions. So I had no desire to go into financial services. I actually wanted to be a broadcaster and yes, in television. And I was graduating from college and I had no connections. And it's always not what you know, it's who you know. And I was working as a disc jockey in downtown Minneapolis while going to school. And it was a big stockbroker hangout. And a couple of brothers asked me, "What are you going to do after school?" And I'm like, "Well, I've been offered a job to do farm reports in Idaho on the radio for $9,000 a year, and I don't think I'm going to take that." So they offered me a job to be their assistant. I had no idea what I was doing. I had no idea what a stock was. I had no idea what a bond was. And I started in March of 1987. I got my license to sell securities in September, and then the crash at 87 happened. And the two guys that I worked for were up north. They were incommunicado. And so I had to deal with the biggest decline in the stock market in a generation. And it was that day that I decided this was what I was going to do for the rest of my life. It was fascinating, and it still is. 39 years later, just when you think you've seen everything, there's a pandemic, or there's a financial crisis, or there's an unexpected conflict. All of those things um, just affect the market, affect the economy, and it's always like putting a jigsaw puzzle together. So I'm fascinated by the analytical side of it, but I'm more drawn to the human side of it. And dealing with money, I grew up in a family that felt some scarcity around money. And so I understand that feeling. And I work really hard with my clients to get past that, to feel security and feel prosperity, that's my problem. But the fascinating craziness of the market also keeps me dialed in. So yeah, I've been doing it for 39 years. I worked for a couple of different companies and then went out on my own in 2001, right before September 11th, 10 days before September 11th, of course. So my timing on career moves is not always great, but yeah, so I branded under a couple other companies. And then recently, when I did the power luncheon, I got a phone call from one of the attendees afterwards. And she had asked me a question about whether working with a female advisor is different than a male advisor. And I said, absolutely. And she said, well, I looked you up on your website and it was you and a bunch of men. And I said, well, as a matter of fact, I've been considering rebranding. So at 61, I am rebranding to my own name to Oberfeld Investments.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Yep. So just launched it. And then I'm a co-founder with another advisor of Collective Legacy and Wealth. There's 3 of us right now, and we're all independent advisors. But as women, we're working together to support each other, give each other, um, our knowledge, share that. And it's really 3 different age groups. We have a 33-year-old, a 37-year-old, and I'm 61. So what that's really done is actually invigorate me. I don't see myself retiring anytime soon. Maybe, I don't know, 70, 75, is somewhere in that range. But I love what I do. And having my kind of career, I have a lot of flexibility, so I can do things.
I was going to say, you have your balance is so beautiful, the way that you're able to,
Yes.
I know that you travel quite a bit and being able to work and go see clients in other places of the United States and things like that. So.
Yeah, I'm kind of sad when they move away, but I'm not, because then I get to travel to see them. So you're easy that. But yeah, so I've been doing this for 39 years, and there's a lot to be said for understanding the power of yourself around money, right? And not giving money more power than you. I think that's like a really important life lesson.
For women, especially.
Oh, for women especially. That's very, very true. We grew up, and I'm of an age, right, at 61, where women were never going to be good in math, right? We were always the arts, right, and reading and literature and writing, and that's really changed. But it still is very much in that legacy world, very much male world, very, very much. So, in between now and 2048, $54 trillion will be passed on to women, right? And women just need to step into that power.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's there.
Within the next 20 years is what you just said. Yeah, within the next 20 years. So where do we start? I mean, I'm hearing this and it's all great.
Yeah.
But where does that woman start that is sitting there saying, well, I've always had somebody else taking care of this, or where do they begin?
So there are 2 really good books that I recommend to anybody that has any interest in kind of walking down this path and empowering yourself. And the first one is called The Millionaire Next Door, which has been around for
Writing this
6
down.
years.
Yeah.
Good. And the second one is Richest Man in Babylon. And
Just got that book.
did you?
Yeah.
Awesome.
I
Awesome.
think I read it when I was younger, but I just repurchased it.
Yeah.
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 All right, tell us one more time those 2 books.
Millionaire Next Door and Richest Man in Babylon. And they're really great books to just kind of get a basic understanding. I mean, I like to say to, people, if I sat down in your chair and tried to do your job, how many minutes would it be before I got lost? And how much of it is just understanding language and understanding how to foster, right? Exactly. And so both of those books, I think, give you a really good kind of basic, and they a good foundation, and they do start to build upon that foundation as the book goes by, in understanding the glossary of financial planning and investments. So, the basic things I think are, don't spend more than you make. Like, that's always a good start.
Oh, did you say that? It's so accessible.
Yeah, right? I mean, that's it, right? I mean, the phone, right, gives you all the information in the world, and all you want to do is shop and watch cat videos, right? Yes. But The Millionaire Next Door, Richest Man in Babylon, I think, is a little bit of an easier read. It's a little quicker, but they both will help you at least get your mindset and understand some of the terminology. Financial planning and investments really is like a fancy game of Monopoly. And that's how I explain it to people. If you think about monopoly, what's your goal? Your goal is to buy property. It's ownership, right?
I actually tell Lafferty, and I live on Ventnor,
Yeah.
which is
It did that, which is monopoly, right? And then you have different kinds of property. You have Park Avenue and you have Baltic Avenue. And if you remember, Park Avenue was $350, Baltic Avenue was $80, right?
oh yeah.
So you have different qualities of investments, right? Like there's so many little lessons that can be learned in playing that game. And so for people starting out, I think that's a really good place. And when you read a book that is kind of in that structure that you're not really comfortable with, or it might be kind of dry, if you read a chapter and you feel like you didn't absorb it, just read it again and don't feel bad about it. Right. It's yeah. And anytime that you are looking to, give yourself knowledge, give yourself grace when it takes a while to absorb it, because it's a different world. Right. And so for women in particular, because we're kind of fed this, or have been, that's not really our forte. It's not really, that's not our, that's just not the way our minds work. 85% of households, or in the households, 85% of those households, women are either making the financial decisions or they are part of them. So you actually probably know a lot more about money than you already realize too.
In saying that, one of the questions that, comes to mind is that, when we talk about money, it's almost like talking about sex. We don't, taboo,
That's
right?
yeah.
So, what are some of the conversations that women specifically need to start having in their households with their family around money that maybe they're just too afraid to have? So, is there how do we start the conversation about money in our households
Um,
when it feels uncomfortable?
right, right. And I think, and this is an interesting thing, because women, in my experience, tend to, when they're thinking about money in terms of that family unit, are actually much more practical than men. Women are the ones that are generally concerned to make sure that all the T's are crossed, I's are dotted, estate planning is done, all of those things. But it is you kind of have to be direct and say, so what happens if you get hit by a bus tomorrow? What happens if I get hit by a bus tomorrow? Do you know the names of the kids, doctors? Do you? It's like whoever is dealing with these different parts, it's not just about money. It's total family communication, because everything in your life, good or bad, positive or negative, happy or sad, touches money. So, having that conversation and just saying, hey, I really need to understand where we are financially. If you've been that, spouse or that partner that hasn't been really, you know, active at this point, or have been fearful to kind of to step up, and it's to say, we need to make sure that we each know everything we need to know. So I don't know if that's
Yeah, I mean, I think it's an uncomfortable conversation.
oh yeah.
But what I'm hearing is that it's necessary. I remember when my dad passed away many years ago, and my mom was. I mean, she didn't know how to even. I mean, she had pumped her own gas,
Right.
right, for years, and it does really leave you in this place of, not only did you lose the most important person in your life, but you lost that resource uh to just how to live comfortably, or everything. So I
Yeah.
appreciate that. We talk a lot about legacy. What does legacy mean to you beyond dollars?
I think legacy to me beyond dollars is communicating and passing down your knowledge, right? Of how to build a purposeful, mindful life. And you can bring in dollars to that to help the people that you care about and the causes that you have, right? The things that are important to you. But it's trying to pass on um what your belief system is, and the things that you think are best about you.
I love that you brought legacy up, Tracy, because that really feeds into our next power luncheon about the power of you and finance.
Yeah.
And the conversation will center around what you mentioned earlier, profitability
Yeah.
and legacy. So if the listener right now is hearing this conversation, what else would you want them to know before coming to the luncheon on April 28th? Is there something they could start thinking about?
I think when I start working with people, I always have them make their list of their goals. If you write your goals down and you do that on a regular basis, your chance of success is 42% higher, right? If you do that, if you actually break that down weekly and you share that with someone, your chance of success is 78% higher. So the idea is to kind of write down what those goals are financially, and try and develop the I would say the priority list, and come with this idea of, if it's important to me to X, then what are going to be the steps for me to do that. So if it's important for me to provide for my family if something happens to me in now, right, while my children are young, where is that on your priority list? So part of understanding and leaning into the power that you have with money is understanding where you want that power to go.
Yeah. That's a great statistic. In fact, I shared that same thing. If Lisa might not remember this, but I shared the same thing at the last power luncheon when we were talking about how we create in 2026. Writing down those goals, talking about those goals,
Yep.
sharing those goals with others. Because here's the other thing about sharing with others when we're talking, whether it be financial or whatever, is that you never know who's sitting at the table that can help you get to where you want to go.
Yep.
So when we start sharing those kind of things, we really do. Uh, um, so I appreciate that. I just, is there anything that you would like to share with anybody just as a last note, maybe how to get started other than the goals, or how to start that conversation, or how to create balance in your life? Anything else you want to share with us while we're wrapping up here?
I would say the biggest thing that I would say is there are no mistakes when you're moving forward, right? So you can always start down a path and say, "Yep, I'm going to start, um, saving for X." And if you change your mind or you don't get quite, where you want to go, celebrate your success,
Absolutely.
right? So don't expect perfection. It is a learning process. It is a learning curve. Give yourself grace, but also push yourself. Like like talking about those uncomfortable conversations. Try to seek out information. I will say there's a couple of, just kind of a throw out, couple of websites. One in particular, Nerd Wallet.
Here I am taking notes.
Yep, and I have
With this wallet.
like an Investopedia. These are just great little, like, you call, if somebody says you need, I need to buy term insurance. Well, what does that mean? Or I need to buy, what basic thing is trying to, gather as much information as you can. Often that's why people work with financial planners, is to help them disseminate that information. It's great living in a high information time, but it's also really overwhelming. So, working with someone is a way to go about it. And financial advisors like me will do consultations that are just an hourly thing. There's also, you can find classes at community colleges, right? And those things. Anytime you seek out knowledge, it's a win. It's always a win.
That's right. One thing that, just a soundbite is, it's in our uncomfortability that growth is found.
Absolutely.
Right? And I also loved what you said about these resources that you just gave us, because I think sometimes we don't ask the question because we don't want to look stupid. Or we feel like we're behind because we haven't asked the right questions, or I didn't know that. So,
Right.
there's shame and embarrassment around it. So just easily understanding some of the terms.
Hmm.
When we go to a doctor, we don't understand that term. So, oh, they're so much smarter than us. And it's just that they had the information.
Right.
So I appreciate that so much.
Carolyn, thank you so much. We are so excited to continue this conversation in April at our power luncheon. And I don't know if you saw me, but I just took a page of notes. There, I said, we almost did. Thank you so much. We're so grateful that you're part of this series, and We'll see you in April.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. It was great.
All right, let's go.
Thank you so much for joining us for today's episode. If something we shared sparked a new idea, gave you a fresh perspective, or simply made you feel seen, we'd love for you to pass it on. Share this episode with a friend, a colleague, or a fellow powerhouse woman who's walking her own journey. And if you haven't yet, don't forget to subscribe so you'll never miss an episode. Until next time, keep showing up, keep rising, and remember, there's no ceiling you can't break through.